Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we have a kind of a weird subject, but this is a lobster head that my daughter found when we were at Sketchbook Point last weekend, and I thought it would make a wonderful still life object to kind of sketch in a botanical style. I'm working on some hot press watercolor paper. This is the Paul Rubens watercolor paper. I really like their hot press block. The cold press is alright, but their hot press really is outstanding and it's very inexpensive. So if you're looking for inexpensive cotton quality paper, give that hot press block a try, especially if you want to try hot press but you've never tried it before. I prefer this to Arches, actually, the hot press, not the cold press, but the hot press, totally. So I'm starting off by sketching directly on my watercolor paper, and because I'm doing that, I am trying to keep my lines a little bit light. Now, I get asked all the time about my mechanical pencil. It is just a Pentel mechanical pencil, and I use the Bic ones too, but my favorite is a Pentel with the 0.5 millimeter lead. There's 0.5, 0.7, and 0.9 now. It's the 0.5. It's a little thinner. That used to be the standard. And that's what I'm using to sketch. And the reason I like that is that it's soft enough that I can go really light and still leave a decent line, but I can erase it really easily with a soft white plastic eraser if I need to. So that's why I don't go with a really light hard lead, because that will dent the paper and be difficult to erase, even though it makes a lighter line. Now this little guy, this eraser is a Tombow Mono, and it is the skinniest, tiniest little eraser I've ever seen, and I really like it for kind of erasing the hairy lines that I don't need, because when I'm sketching I do tend to be kind of free and I end up with some kind of I basically erase the lines I don't need, but I might have like 3 or 4 lines next to each other just trying to find the right one. So that eraser is really good. It's refillable, so you buy the little pen style thing and it usually comes with 1 or 2 refills, and then you can just buy the refills, so you're not wasting a bunch of junk. You're not throwing away a pen every time. So I like that. If you're looking for a teeny tiny eraser, give it a whirl. Now I'm going ahead and wetting the lobster head area, except for the inner part and except from the antennas. And I am using some yellow ochre. This is just your regular yellow ochre. It happens to be Paul Rubens. Now if you look at that palette, I've actually moved all my Paul Rubens original half pans into that Meaden palette, and down the center I put a little poster putty and I stuck some Primatek colors. And I purchased the Primateks from Amazon a couple months ago. They had a crazy deal. It was like $22 for the set of 6, and I've had it in my shopping cart for probably 2 or 3 years, but I just haven't been able to bite the bullet because it was so expensive just for those 6 tiny tubes. But when I went down to 22, I'm like, I really want to try this. And I panned them the other day, and I squeezed them into little pans the other day, and I thought this would be just such a perfect use of these colors, because the Primatek colors from Daniel Smith are made from stones. They're like finely ground stones. They're kind of weird to get used to because you've got it's almost got this kind of like gelatinous heavy feeling to it. The benefit to that is you get this gorgeous granulation from like the sediments in the pigments, and you also can lift really well. So if I want to lift out a highlight, if I make a mistake and I get some paint on my white background, I can lift it away like it was never there. So that's a nice benefit. And I'm trying to remember the colors from this set. I think I'm just going to go and grab the box so I can read them to you. Okay, the colors that are in this Daniel Smith set, I'll read the ones that I used first. Jadeite, genuine. Amethyst, genuine. Mayan blue, genuine. Hematite, and Primatek, genuine. I hope I pronounced that right. So that would be like, that kind of teal blue would be the Mayan blue. The purple obviously is the amethyst. The green is the jadeite. I don't think I've put any of the hematite yet. That's kind of like a brownish, blackish, sooty color. The Primatek is kind of like a burgundy color. I think I've put that in. It's kind of like a rusty brown burgundy color. And then there's also Rhodonite Genuine, which I didn't use here. That's more of like a flower pink color. So I just figured I'd give these a try. I'm usually not too, I like Daniel Smith paint and all. I don't think that they're as awesome as a lot of people. I think they're great, but I don't think that they deserve quite the, pomp and circumstance that they get. But I wanted to try these because I love granulating colors, and I thought these would be really fun to use. And I do have to say, their Mayan Blue Genuine is a head above the Turner Mayan Blue. I didn't like any of the Turner Mayan colors, to be honest, and I didn't think I would like Mayan colors in general, but I do like the Daniel Smith Mayan Blue. I may get more Primatek colors. I don't know. I have so many paints. I really think that this has a nice range of colors that when I want to get that, granulating mineral look, I can just use those colors. I do have their Soda Light and their Serpentine in stick form. I like those a lot too, and I can use those. I actually tend to prefer the Daniel Smith sticks to the tubes just because they're already dried out and in pans and formulated to be re-wet. I've heard these paints are not going to re-wet very well, so I didn't put many in the pans or much in the pans, and I'm working at it from a semi-moist state. I didn't dry it out. They're not like extremely juicy like they were fresh from the tube, but they definitely are they're soft in their pans. So that's another thing. You might not want to squeeze out that much, and you might want to kind of keep it a little juicy, basically. I found the yellow ochre to mix really well. That's the only color I used from other than the Daniel Smith colors, and I thought it worked really well. Now, of course, yellow ochre is an iron color. It is made from a mineral, so obviously they would kind of go really well together, but it might be fun to actually mix these with some dyes and see how they kind of fight each other or separate from one another. I enjoyed using the credit card scraper there to get the little rings on the antenna there, so I basically just kind of scraped curved lines, and when I wiped out the highlight I could see the detail from the curved lines, because if you're looking at a lobster head, and not that you'd get very much opportunity to do that, but you can see these just like ridges, like where the scales or the plates of the exoskeleton, I guess, come together. It was really neat to see. I think a lot of people think lobsters are red. They're only red after they're cooked. Lobsters actually come in a variety of colors. Occasionally you'll see a white lobster. That's like 1 in a million. They had one up in an aquarium we went to in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, and it was really cool to see that. I think they might have actually had 2 white lobsters, because when fishermen find them, they will call the authorities and report them, and often they'll go to a museum or to an aquarium so they can live out their days in peace. They also had a giant lobster, which was kind of crazy to see. So to see this on the beach like that, it was unusual. I reckon that a seagull probably caught it, maybe even stole it from a fisherman, and then dropped it on the rocks at Skoodik Point, because it's all rocky, like very sheer rocks, to kind of kill it, and then went and picked out the guts and left the head intact. You always find like crab shells and crab claws and stuff like that. So those poor lobsters have a wild ride before the end. But anyway, I thought that the modeling on the shell was so interesting, and I just wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to examine an animal like this so close. Hope you don't think it's morbid and gross. I mean, I'm vegan. I don't eat animals. I certainly wouldn't, kill one for sport or for the, sake of a painting, but I thought it was a nice opportunity to get to learn the natural world a little bit more. Here you can see I'm lifting up a mistake or just some splop of paint that went beyond the lines of my sketch, and I'm just mixing up my sludge now on my palette so that I can make a nice shadow color. And I like to use the colors I've already used so that I know it's going to be harmonious with the object that I'm actually painting, because shadows are rarely just gray. Now the lobster head is off camera. I got to remember to take a picture of it and post it on my blog so you can see if you want to paint along. But I set the lobster head on a white piece of copy paper, just like off to the left of where I'm working, so I could just look over there. So this is like the shadow being cast on the paper. But the shadows, when you have shadows cast, you also have light bouncing off of the object. It's gonna take some of that color and imbibe it into the it's probably not the best word, imbibe it into the shadow. Actually, maybe it is a pretty good word. I think it says what I need it to say. You know what I mean. So it does kind of color your shadow a little bit. And plus, if you use colors you've already used to make your darks, to make your shadows, you're automatically going to have a more natural look. And I did want this to have that almost scientific illustration look to it. That was my goal anyway. And here I'm just using a damp, fairly firm synthetic brush to pull out some highlights. And at this point, I probably could have just said, okay, I'm done. It looks pretty good. I could just stop here. But sometimes what happens when I have an actual subject right in front of me, I want to spend longer painting it. So I say, okay, can I push it any further? Can I get a little more detail? It might have been as perfect as it would be right here, or perfect. Well, it might have been as good as it could be right there, but I decided that I did want to do some really bright highlights. There are little kind of almost like scars on the shell, and also where the exoskeleton comes together. I don't know if that's what you call it on a crustacean, like you would a bug, but you know what I mean. It's a good word to describe that. I decided I would put on some white highlights with a white acrylic paint pen. And then for the like scratches on the shell that are a little bit more subtle, I thought I would go in with some colored pencil. And also I wanted to tone down some of the brightness on the white there by using a kind of golden colored color pencil, because I did have it a smidgen too bright. So that's a nice thing. You can glaze over it. You can even glaze over with your watercolors once it's dry if you want to do that. That'll work pretty well too. The white gives me less of an opaque highlight, so any place I just want to like that hazy, waxy, shelly finish, would just use by scumbling in some white, and it just like very lightly with a sharpened white pencil put a few little scratches on the shell that I could see from observing it. There's nothing like being able to observe something in real life. So although it might be a little bit morbid, I just got to know the natural world a little bit more, and I think we're put on this earth to learn and to create and to leave it a better place than we found it. So hopefully this inspires you to draw something that interests you, whether it be morbid, whether it be unusual, whether it be boring and, you know, just dead dull to somebody else. If it interests you, your painting will be lively because you'll be able to see the care that you've taken in illustrating it. And I decided to leave it here and sign my name on my paper. I think it came out really well. I'm very happy with the way it looks, and I hope you found a little bit of inspiration in this. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. Let me know what you think. And until next time, happy crafting.